Good afternoon. My name is Edward Cato Sanshin Oberholtzer. I'm the resident priest here at the Joseph Priestley Zen Sangha in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. We're an affiliate of Empty Moon Zen. Let me begin with Case 16 from the Gateless Gate, a case entitled Yunmen, the Sound of the Bell. It's brief. Yunmen said, "See how vast and wide the world is. Why do you put on your 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell?" This past Monday, together with being the day after Valentine's Day, together with being President's Day, together with, perhaps most significant of all, the day commemorating the death of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha's parinirvana, this past Monday was also John Frum Day. The day set aside to anticipate the return of John Frum with his vast gifts of cargo, something like the image of the jovial fat guy in the 10th of the 10 ox-herding pictures, returning to the marketplace with bliss-bestowing hands. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Who is, or who was, John Frum? In the 1920s and 30s, he was a figure revered and legendary in Melanesia, in the South Pacific. Revered as someone who would return the islands to their old ways, rejecting Christianity and Western culture. As World War II settled into and disrupted the islands, John Frum came to stand for someone who would intercede with the gods and bring the cargo that had clearly been diverted by American soldiers and sailors. Cargo meant for the islanders: food, clothing, tools, gifts from the gods sent down from heaven in giant silvery birds. When the Americans left at the end of the war, the islanders tried to summon the bounty of cargo by building replicas of the airstrips carved out of the jungle, complete with bamboo airplanes, replicas of the means that the Americans had used to bring in that cargo from the sky. And so cargo cults were born. Now, I was ordained by my teacher as a Soto Zen Buddhist priest, in a tradition we have inherited from the Japanese. We wear the robes of medieval Japanese monks. We chant liturgy in a style that is modeled on the practices of Japanese temples, sometimes in Sino-Japanese. Our bells, our fish drums, these are all Japanese, and through Japan are echoes of Chinese practices. When I burn incense, it's Japanese incense. When I eat the ritual meals at Seishin, it is with bowls that are modeled on those of Japan. The terms we use for practice positions in the Zendo, these are in Japanese. My own teacher used to like to say at the end of Seishin, itself a Japanese word, that as a Japanese-based practice, we should honor the tradition with that most Japanese of practices, a group photograph. Is it any wonder that our form of Zen, our very practice here, has been referred to as cargo cult Zen, with the implication that in seeming to parrot the forms, we are seeking to call down the cargo of enlightenment. There is a power dynamic going on with cargo cults, with a powerless culture seeking to wrest control from a more powerful culture, and perhaps if we viewed ourselves as spiritually deprived in relation to Japanese Zen, we could see parallels to cargo cults in our own relation to the East. But it's a stretch. a kind of snide put-down, good for a chuckle, but not much more. Buddhism has a long history in moving out away from its birthplace in northeastern India, of absorbing the belief systems of the new lands it finds itself in and transforming itself in those new milieux. Consider its encounter with Taoism and Confucianism in China, with the Bon religion in Tibet, with Shinto in Japan. The Buddha taught a way, a practice to deal with the suffering of the world, and that practice, or the variants that emerged over time, were perfectly capable of existing side by side, of absorbing the many different systems of belief, and yet remaining Buddhism. Not cultural appropriation, but an embrace, an acknowledgement of our spiritual roots. What then of the West, and how will Dharma manifest itself here? In my own tradition, the English Zen priest Hoenjiu Kennet, in bringing Soto Zen to North America from Japan, sought a way to bring the Dharma out, melded with the forms and practices of the Anglican Church, the priestly collars and chants mirroring the forms of the Anglo-Catholic Church. Robert Aiken, the grandfather of American Zen and a direct ancestor of our path, wrote Zen Master Raven, a collection of koans rooted in Native American imagery. John Tarrant's Pacific Zen Institute chants the liturgy set to Cajun melodies. But of course, what is more interesting is how the Dharma will be transformed by Christianity, by Judaism, and by the secular worldview we see here. Already, we find fascinating parallels between Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion, and the Virgin Mary, that Christian avatar of mercy and compassion. But what of our clinging to the old ways, to the forms, the rituals, the practices of Japan? And why do we put on that 7-piece robe, orokeses, araxus, at the sound of the bell? We are creatures embedded in time, in our history. My ancestors, my family, long since dead, live on in who I am, in what I do. My teachers, my very culture, lives on in how I embrace the world. The long and storied history of Buddhism, of Zen, of Soto Zen, lives on through us, however inadequate our presentation of it is. We wear the robes, we offer the incense, we make the bows and chant the chants, and through us the past comes forth. Each bow here in the present, here in these very un-Asian valleys and hollers of central Pennsylvania, is a bow that reaches back to Sojiji in Kamakura, Japan, to the Shingde Temple in China, to the Bodhi tree in northeastern India, a bow that holds the past here in this very moment, a bow wrapped in the robes that mirror, however inadequately, however poorly, the robes of our ancestors, of Keizan, of Dogen, of Ujing, yes, and of Siddhartha Gautama, a bow that here and now offers itself, going forth into the future, wherever that may lead. No, we're not building bamboo airports and bamboo airplanes hoping to snag the Dharma before it is hijacked by someone else. There is no dharmic cargo to seek. The Dharma is here, all around us. John Frum, is you, is me, is that kid down the block. Here is the bell. Put on that robe.